all over you with the cord here.
Okay.
Here, maybe let's put it behind us. That one? Oh, shoot. Watch yourself. I'm so sorry.
We're good.
Okay. Okay, maybe we'll try and do that. Yes, hello. I'm Kate Sinclair. I run cherrystems.com, which is a soft porn site based here out of Winnipeg. So we're a queer inclusive, wonderful nudie porn site. So basically just naked people being who they are in situations that they want to be shown in. Really wonderful. I also represent Fuse Toys, so if you happen to go over to the Smitten booth there, that's nice. I do all that. So yeah, that's me.
I go by Arachnia. I am one of the models on cherrystems.com. I do plus size modeling and nudes and all that stuff. So
Yay.
yeah.
All right. Question 2: how did you get into porn and why?
Do you want to like just go down the table, or
yeah.
go for it?
Random.
Can you all just like hear me in the back? Yeah. No? Okay, cool. Then I will stick to the microphone. Excellent. So the question was,
How did you get into porn and why?
How did I get into porn? That's a good question. When I was, it was about 8 years ago or so that I started to kind of really think about what porn was and what, why I kind of liked porn, because turns out we socialize young women to not like porn and to say it's for the boys, it's not for you, it's dirty, and the performers in it are trying to steal your boyfriend, and they're all these awful things. So I believed all that for a long time. But as I realized, but I am looking at this, I am consuming this, what does that mean? Then cue the journey. Then I realized that I really enjoyed expressing myself in the nude because I didn't see myself represented very well on the internet. It was actually Courtney's site Nofo that really inspired me in the beginning to be like, oh, there are people who are expressing themselves and being who they are. I got all this praise. And I was like, I would really like to do that, but there's nothing up in Canada, really. So I just kind of decided that I should maybe try it and that I should develop my own website somehow. And it turns out that was a really big undertaking, so it took years, but here we are. That's how I'm in porn. So, who wants to go next?
I kind of got into, first it was just plus size modeling that I was doing first, and I kind of got into that because I was acting my whole life, and eventually a talent agency saw me and they're like, oh, you should do plus size modeling, you have the right measurements for it, da-da-da-da. So I did that, and I kind of got bored with what I was doing after a little while, because I mean, you go, you show up, they do your hair a certain way, they usually have me in a white t-shirt and jeans, and I usually wear all black. I'm a little more gothy and whatever, so I just didn't feel like it really represented me as a person. And this was around the time that Dove released their commercial where they had different women of different sizes. They were naked, but they were kind of covering up their body and whatever, and that really spoke to me. I thought it was really beautiful. And I eventually just started doing nude modeling, and I was really, really nervous about it at first and kind of scared. But the first photographer I worked with, strictly at that time, was doing a project with just plus size women, and he showed me his work, and I thought it looked really good. And after I had my pictures back, I was really happy with how they looked, and it gave me self-confidence that I had never had in my life, and even before, because I'm a single mother, and before I had my son, I used to be quite thin. I was really insecure about myself for a long time, so after I did that, I just felt better about myself, and then I found out about cherrystems.com. It was in its really new stages, and I became one of their models, and yeah.
You joined on in its infancy. I don't even think we had a site yet. It was just me being trust me, it'll exist someday.
That's awesome that you started out with a model with your clothes on, because I definitely started out as a model with my clothes off, and I've been trying to do fashion. I've started doing fashion pictures of myself, because there's not a whole lot of plus size modeling options in SF, San Francisco. So anyways, I've always really liked porn. I really resonate with the like, it's for the boys. I was raised by a single dad and I hung out with a lot of guys. So I didn't really have like a female role model telling me that porn was for boys. I didn't really have anybody telling me that anything was just for boys. I kind of identified as a boy a little bit as a kid too, I guess. So I didn't really feel this like strict limit of access to pornography for me. And I really liked it. I was attracted to it. I thought it looked fun. And it is fun. It's a lot of fun. But I started doing phone sex when I was 18, and and I was doing it full time and making a lot of money, and you know. But what phone sex is figuring out what people's fantasies are and selling it back to them with your voice and your mind and your dirty stories and whatever you can come up with. And you know, 18, 19, 20 is one of those. You know, it's part of your life where you're really figuring out your own sexual desires in a lot of ways, and sort of forming your fantasies, really start forming around that time period. And my fantasies were getting pretty skewed. Maybe I'm a pervert just naturally, but one thing with phone sex is that I was spending a lot of time focusing on everybody else's fantasies. And so I decided to start a photo project that explored my own fantasies. I've always been a photographer. I got my first camera when I was 9 years old. It was a Polaroid camera. And I've always taken pictures of my family, like portrait style. And I've always really loved taking pictures. So I thought it would be cool to take pictures of myself in my porn fantasy world. Like if I were a phone sex customer, what would I want? So I took pictures like that. That became nofo.com. And it also started taking pictures of my friends because I couldn't be in every set. I was already running an online webzine called fatgirlbreakdown.com that was just sort of youth culture and fat positivity and sort of about that moment that you decide to stop hating your body and start living your life. So I already had a built-in online community that was super excited when I started making porn because they were already posting nudes on Fat Girl Breakdown. So it just kind of evolved really quickly. People started hearing about what I was doing from all over the world and brought me to their towns so I could take naked pictures of them. And then it started getting called queer porn, and it sort of took off from there. I started doing video in 2005, 2006 when they added that button to my camera. So that's sort of how I got into making films. Thanks, Nikon. And I've had a blast. I've had like no negative moments in my career at all as far as being a porn maker or a porn star.
Awesome. Our third question is, why do you keep doing porn?
I feel like I covered that because I love it. Nothing negative has happened. Only positive things have happened. I keep getting sent to awesome places like Australia and Winnipeg and Berlin. And I've met most of my best friends. I got married last summer, and all of my bridesmaids were people that I had done porn scenes with. So, I mean, that's proof. Like, my best friends have come from the porn industry. My family's come from the porn industry. And, yeah, it's been more empowering than anything else in my life. It's fucking awesome.
Preach. Yeah. Nothing negative has come of being in this for me. It's been only positive stuff, which is great. I keep doing it because it makes me happy. It's a way for me to express how I see the world as well as how other people see the world, and I really like giving that opportunity to people. It makes, like, after a photo shoot, you've got this high and you're like, oh, this is great, you know, we had a great time, I looked hot, and now I'm going to be hot on the internet. And that's super great feeling to give to other people as well, and to share, especially to people who may not have the chance to do it via you know, like Suicide Girls or something. We don't have access to much here in Winnipeg. Let's face it, we're not in San Francisco, which sucks. But but I love it here, and so we need this culture to exist here, and that's a lot of why I keep doing porn. Plus the whole just really enjoying it. I enjoy consuming it. I enjoy producing it. I guess I should note that we are working on a new site that is explicit and does show people with an emphasis on people's orgasms the way that they have them. So we're not just doing the soft porn thing anymore. We're also expanding into the rest because it's also great. So I'm growing up, and so are the projects, basically. Yeah, I think that's it.
One of the reasons I have continued to do it is that I've had a lot of feedback from other women, and they've usually tell me that my pictures have made them feel better about themselves, and that it's nice to see someone with my body type on the internet just representing myself the way I want to, because when you think of porn or nude models or whatever, it's usually so cookie cutter, like thin, blonde hair, fake breasts, all that. So that's something I've really connected with cherrystems.com, because there's just something for everybody there, I really feel, and it's something that makes me feel happy. So yeah.
Hey.
Also, the next one's kind of a two-parter. Does everyone in your life know that you make porn, and how did your friends and family react when you told them?
Do you want to start this one? I'll go back this way.
Sure. So what was the second part of the question?
Does everyone in your life know that you make porn, and how did your friends and family react when you told them?
I would say the majority of people know, because it's not something that's really kept secret. The worst thing that was really said was by my mother, and she was like, "Oh, if your father finds out, you're dealing with it." So,
Yep.
I haven't had that conversation with him. If he knows, I don't know. He hasn't said anything to me, but I have my Cherry Stems profile on Facebook, and it's pretty accessible. So anyone can kind of view it. There hasn't really been too much negative comments. My friends have been really supportive and all that. So,
everyone that matters to me knows. Is what I would say. I do have a day job. I don't tell everybody there necessarily, because do you need to have that conversation over breakfast at work? But that said, I often bring it up when I can and when I feel comfortable, because if you're out in the public dealing with people who may have really negative opinions of what I do, that sort of thing, it could go south. But I see that as a way to kind of spread the message further, I guess, is that I'm coming from this place where Cherry Stems is a project that has a lot of things I can sell to conservative-minded people on. Like, we have the fact that we redistribute our profits to charities and to sending our people to conferences and stuff. None of that money really comes back in other ways. It just gets redistributed within the group. So people say, "Oh, but porn for good reasons, that exists." So because people have this painted idea that it's inherently degrading and all of these things, but Cherry Stems has so many great things, and you can sell the body positivity aspect and all this. So then you get someone thinking who might not have thought about it before, oh, if this is positive, what else is positive, and how can it be positive? So, that's a long-winded, weird tangent. So that's why I do and don't tell some people who are just on the periphery. All my friends and family are super supportive. There's lots of people here today that I call friends. My wonderful fiance who's in the back, who supports and codes Cherry Stems. Sorry to point you out. Yay. And there were partners that I had who were cool with it and were like, "Yeah, you're naked on the internet, that's hot." And then 3 months later they're like, "Oh, but I'm not comfortable with this because your body is mine and that's not for sharing." And then I'm like, "Well, then
you're too empowered."
You're too empowered. And I was like, "Well, then our relationship is not ours." And later. But you have to have the ability to stand
and
later. So you have to have that ability to kind of stand up and stand up for what you believe in, because some people aren't going to accept it. But my parents know, they're great. My mom comes to some events. Sometimes you see her. And Yeah, she's really cool. She came to my slut walk speech. It was really great. Both my parents, they're cool with it. It came up over dinner once. We were chatting about something, and then someone's like, yeah, as though they made some kind of reference to porn, and then everything just at the table went silent, and we all knew that we knew, and then it was fine. Nobody said anything about it. We acknowledged through that silence, we all know. Cool. Moving on. So that's that.
I feel like I've tried to cultivate sort of a culture of pride around sex work and porn and nude modeling and being queer, sort of in the community that I'm in. I host a lot of porn-related parties, so dance clubs, nightclubs. I run a pride party called Queerly Beloved. That's always got a huge porn component to it. I try to give a lot of opportunities for people to just get over their hang-ups so that people who do work in porn or do perform, some people call themselves sex workers, other people call themselves sex performers because it's not really a job for them. So I respect both of those. I am a sex worker and a sex performer. Since, I'm 31 now and I was 18 when I started doing phone sex, and there's been a lot of time for my family to find out. My mom actually found out. I was running a sex work life journal back in the day when I was 18 actually, and my mom found it somehow. I don't really know how. Yeah, live journal. I see you. I think it was called Ask Ashley or something. It might still exist, but I would just tell stories about my phone sex clients and dish a little bit. And so my mom found it and called my dad on Christmas and said, "Hey, did you know your daughter was a whore?" To which my dad was like, "Shut up, bitch." So my dad is awesome. He taught me how to be a feminist. He taught me how to be a business person. He taught me how to be an independent creature. He taught me how to be an atheist and a witch, and raised me in all the right ways, to which I really just don't give a fuck what people think about what I do or what I say, because I'm strong and I run my shit and I own my shit, and that's more than a lot of people can say for themselves, and I'm really proud of it. So anybody who has a problem with it can kind of just go away. It doesn't really bother me, and that's kind of including my mom, unfortunately. However, her children, my sister and my brother, totally are on board with what I do. My sister is actually on Indie Porn Revolution. Her name is Corvette. I didn't let her take her bra off because I'm her big sister, which is totally weird. Sex negative. I totally should let her take her bra off. But I was taking the pictures, so I was like, okay, that's enough. You don't need your boobs on the internet. You do. How did your friends... Okay, so I told you how my mom reacted. My dad, when he found out that I was doing sex work, was like, cool, yeah, whatever. Shut up, bitch. And then the next time I saw him, he started talking about Annie Sprinkle and Carol Queen and Scarlet Harlot. And he was like, I'm going to the Sex Workers Art Show. And I was just like, what is that? So the Sex Workers Art Show is something that was happening in Olympia, where I was, hosted by one of my friends, that was all about sex workers, debunking the myths and the stereotypes around sex workers being anything but beautiful, genius artists, performers, and radical feminists. And that kind of changed my life. So my dad's had a really positive influence on my sex work. He's been financially supportive in helping me learn how to become a filmmaker. He bought a couple of my cameras, and we sort of have a technology recycling program going on. So he bought me my first camera, and then he buys my cameras from me when I upgrade. So I keep giving him my old porn gear for his child photography of his children. And then I'm able to buy new technology. So yeah, my dad's super supportive. And my friends are from porn, so they'll stay there. Yeah.
Do you think people judge you for being involved in the porn industry?
Oh yeah, there's so much stigma. I guess the part two to that question is do I tell random strangers that I do porn? And that's actually not really. And it's not because I'm not proud of what I do. It is because it's fucking annoying. I was at a wedding. The this year, and me and my husband went, and we were both very tired, and you know, they seat you at these tables with strangers that they think you'll get along with. And these strangers were having a conversation like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we sold our panties on the internet? I hear people do that. And it was just like... and it just kept going and going and going. I was like, oh, you know, I've actually done that. All you have to do is wipe it in butter. And they were just like, what? And then, like, for the rest of the wedding, I was fielding questions about sex work. They never figured out what my favorite kind of pizza was. They never figured out that I am obsessed with my chihuahua. They never figured out that I failed at gardening pretty hardcore. Like, they never found out, like, anything. But they figured out a whole lot about sex work and not a whole lot about me. So sometimes that's a really tough thing to be out with total strangers, because then there's just a barrage of questions, because I guess people just don't know enough about sex, which is a problem that we should address as a community, and get people some better sex education and get people more information about what it's like to be a sex worker and all of those things, so that the first question isn't, oh, do your parents know you do it, you know, and more like, oh, cool, you're a sex worker, awesome, what's your favorite movie, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I totally echo that sentiment that, you know, going back to the day job thing, I don't tell everybody there because I don't necessarily want to get into it. Sometimes if I identify with a person and I can tell they're going to handle it well, they might have, you know, a barrage of questions, or just like 3 and then be like, that's cool. And then we get on with our day and we treat each other like people. That's pretty great. But, gosh, I was thinking of an example. Hold on 1 second. Work. Oh no, it's gone. It's gone. Oh, this is the worst thing. Oh, yes. So I went to work, and I work with various people in batches. So I'll see 3 people for 2 weeks, and then I'll see a new group of 3 people or something like that. So I had worked with some people. I told someone. Then I go back to work 3 months later or something, and I work with this person. And they're like, did you know that one of the employees in Winnipeg here has a porn site? I was like, oh, really? That's weird.
Someone else
like,
does that?
really? Like, I totally played dumb on this one. Like, I like, got them to think about it and, like, ask them questions. And was like, oh, well, did you hear what it's like? Oh, have you checked it out? Have you done this? Like, and got them to actually talk about it. And they were like, well, actually, it's kind of cool. Like, I kind of thought about doing it, like, and I was like, yeah, you did. But it was important for me not to reveal myself as that person in that moment, because...
Are you sure they didn't see your picture?
I don't think they honestly checked it out. But because that's rumors, right? Like, people just hear about it and just spread it around. But then that got that person thinking about it, so that when I was asking them enough questions, they were like, well, you know, maybe I would consider, like, so yeah. In those little moments, that kind of thing is hilariously awesome. What was the rest of the question? Do you remember? Can I hear it again in case I have other thoughts?
Do you think people judge you for being involved in the industry?
Yeah, but nah, I don't care. That's okay. People will judge you for any choice that you make in your entire life. I'm planning a wedding right now. Judgment. There's more judgment around that than there is around porn for my life. Which is a big thing. But no, I don't care. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, like, people, it doesn't matter what you do, there's always going to be someone judging you, even for small decisions in your life. So, I mean, obviously there's going to be people who are against porn, they don't like it. You're not going to really change their mind. If they're brought up a certain way, raised a certain way, you know, I don't really care. They can think that it's wrong. I don't feel that it's wrong, and, you know, they can mind their own business. But yeah, it's sometimes hard to, when you're a single person and you're starting to get to know someone, it's kind of that crossroad you come to, okay, when do I tell them that I'm involved in this industry? Because you don't want to say it right away, because then that's all they're going to be wanting to know about. Like Courtney said, you know, that's all the questions are going to be based around. They don't really want to get to know you as a person. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, for me, that's been the hardest part, but, you know.
One one other thing that I want to say is actually just the place that I went to before this. I was in Calgary, and they had, I was at the University of Calgary. There's actually a really awesome opportunity for me to have a radio interview with their corporate, sort of mainstream conservative radio, like live radio station. And I've actually found out that the professor who was sponsoring my event took my media slot with the argument that sort of she knew better how to talk about my event than I did, because perhaps the porn stigma is that because I'm a porn star that I'm not educated and I don't know how to talk about what I myself am doing. And that sort of happens a lot in people who work in the porn industry, is that oftentimes people speak for us because there is this judgment that we're stupid. And that's a really dumb judgment. And I would have totally rocked that radio show, but because of the stigma against sex workers and sex performers, I lost that opportunity. So I would like to see those judgments go away, because we're pretty smart.
Yeah. To jump in on that, like, sex work is work. Surprise. Yeah. You're starting up a business. You're, all of the work that you do is amazing.
Yeah, I'm a web developer.
Yeah.
I know Premiere, Final Cut Pro. Like, I know every film editing program on earth.
Yeah.
I can fix people's WordPresses in less than 5 minutes. Like,
yeah.
Pretty smart.
Yeah. But no, it's... this general assumption that, like, oh, you do porn, it's this cheap, easy way to make money, and so you took the easy way out. I'm sorry, it's a lot of late nights, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of, especially if you're operating in a queer landscape, it's a lot of, like, making sure you're being inclusive, listening to everybody's stories. You just by being, you amass an incredible amount of knowledge. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, this question ties into it.
Cool.
Do you consider making porn to be sex work? Some of you have touched on this already.
Do you want the microphone?
I would love to hear from somebody who's just modeling.
Yeah, great.
I don't consider what I do personally sex work, because I'm not having sex in my sets. It's just mostly topless. So for me, it's not, but for other people, their opinion could be different.
Yeah, that's totally good. I'll just take one look. For me, I haven't, for the moment, I have trouble labeling myself as a sex worker, out of credit to people who are actually, I guess, having sex kind of thing, whereas I'm much more, and I don't think it's any kind of betterness. In fact, I think I'm not good enough to be a sex worker. Like, I'm not on that plane yet. But I don't know, I've been grappling with it for the last few months and trying to figure out what a sex worker is. Am I in it? I'm certainly in the sex industry, so does that make me a sex worker? If so, I would be glad to have the title. It's awesome. I just want to make sure that I'm fair to the people who carry the title before I claim it. So, yeah.
So sex work is definitely sort of an ambiguous term. The official consensus is that sex work covers everything from partially nude modeling to camming to phone sex, all the way to escorting or in-call, out-call, street work, the kind of stuff that we would think of, sex worker, escort. But I think that it's a much broader field. I think anybody who has made money for sort of nude modeling or camming or anything, like saying you're a sex worker just makes the community larger. So it doesn't, I don't think it matters if you've had sex with somebody for money or not. I think just the acceptance alone and just the sort of solidarity that you have with the exchange of money for sexual performance, is a really valid point. And when you think of it that way, the sex worker community becomes so much larger. And some of us have a lot more access to things like healthcare and information and education than a lot of the other kinds of sex workers. So for all of us to be in the same pocket, even if it's just topless modeling, it really helps. It makes the community a lot stronger. So I identify as a sex worker. I've done a bunch of different kinds of sex work. I make the majority of my living off of pornography. So there's no real reason for me to not call myself a sex worker. And I also just want to mention that sometimes I think that sex performers, sort of like where you say like somebody's like a music worker or somebody is just a music hobbyist. I definitely think that there are sex hobbyists.
Yeah.
So you could also maybe claim like sex work hobbyist sort of as your label, as somebody who likes to nude model every once in a while, and I don't care if I get paid or not. It's just kind of fun and liberating. You can totally claim like sex hobbyist. I think that we should definitely make a point to acknowledge that. A lot of burlesque performers are sex hobbyists. A lot of burlesque performers are also sex workers because they make a living off of performing for sexual stuff. But yeah, I definitely call myself a sex worker, but I also have done phone sex and camming and stripping. So.
Awesome. I really like this next question. Do you think your experience with porn is different than most women's? Why or why not?
Some yes and some no. I don't know. Maybe I think we all have different experiences in porn. It depends on where you're coming from. It depends on, what kind of attitude you go to work with. It depends on who you're getting the opportunities to work with. It depends on the color of your skin. It depends on the size of your body. It depends on whether you're trans or cis. There's so many different ways to make porn and to be working in porn that a lot of it really just depends on where you're coming from and what your mindset is and who you have the privilege to work with or not, because that can depend a lot. There's some people who are working in porn and they don't get paid a lot of money, they don't get access to safer sex barriers, that's how they make their living, and maybe their work's kind of shitty. And of course they're going to have a different experience than I do, where I'm directing virtually everything I star in. I'm working with all of my friends, my lovers. My husband films me sometimes, so like that's definitely a way different experience than somebody who's making a living, doing gangbangs for $500 with no condoms. But that's what they have access to, for whatever reason. So yeah, I think porn is a many varied thing. I think it's all worthwhile. I think it's all to be respected. But mine is different.
Yeah, all of that completely. It's different for everyone, and for me to kind of say if my experience is different or better in any way it's not fair to everyone, because everyone does have a different experience getting into it, and so that experience for them works for them and it's great, and that's about that. I'd like to think we're all kind of more level playing fields, and yeah, I guess that's that.
I would say that yes, my experience is different because Cherry Stems is different than a lot of porn companies out there, whereas you can choose how you want to be in your set, you can choose what you're wearing, you can choose how much you want to reveal, kind of, and whereas a lot of porn companies is like, okay, we need you to do this scene, you're doing this, you're wearing this, it's, so I feel that, yeah, it would be different.
Yeah, that's elements of agency, that sort of thing.
Ooh, that ties so well into the next question. Can porn be feminist? What does feminist porn look like? Last night.
You can start.
Deja vu. Yeah. Feminist porn looks like porn. It's a movement. It's not a genre. So feminist porn can look like literally any kind of porn, but it's made by feminists. That's the difference.
Correct. That is correct. That is feminist.
Sorry.
No worries.
I killed that one.
No, you didn't. Like, I'm reading the question over, can it be feminist? Yes.
Can porn be feminist? Yes.
What does it look like? Porn.
Like
last night, if anyone was at the screening, we saw a lot of stuff that, there was a question about narrative. Huh?
Oh, yeah.
And
strap-ons.
And but we won't get into that. So there's a question about narrative, and I thought that was interesting because I was like, no, each one of those had a narrative, like it had a beginning, a middle, and an end.
And a climax.
Or
five.
Or five. So, but like mainstream porn, there is more like clips versus full-on productions, right? Like there are feminist porn productions that are like really good lighting and incredible quality camera work and like high production value, but still feminist. And then there's like amateur, poorly lit, couch in the basement feminist porn, and there's the same like mainstream corporate porn.
Yeah.
So like feminist porn can look like all of the things, but it just involves a lot more thought process behind the scenes in that sense, and a lot more agency and a lot more inclusion of everyone's opinion and self. So
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I have to add to that, because I mean, it's looks the same when it comes down to it. I only really educated myself on feminist porn maybe a year ago. I had heard about it, but I wasn't really sure how it was different from the porn I was watching. And I mean, it can look the same because you can be a feminist and you can be into some of the rougher things and whatever that I guess a lot of people frown upon and say, oh, what woman would like that? I can say I myself like a lot of those things. So, I mean, it's all about personal expression and what you as a person like doing.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, I guess I can add a little bit more like information on feminist porn as a whole. Is that when it first started, feminist porn first started sort of with Annie Sprinkle and Carol Queen and Candida Royale. And Candida's porn was beautiful and groundbreaking, and she came from a feminist filmmaking standpoint. So a lot of the mainstays in feminist film is to challenge the male gaze, and to have diverse representations of different kinds of women, and to have women talking to each other about something that's not a man. Those are all very important things about feminist filmmaking, and a lot of those transfer into feminist porn making as well. You do have to think of it as filmmaking, and you do have to think about what are the stories of the women, and do they have, and not just like do they have agency and orgasms, and is the cum shot in the face or whatever. Like that's kind of like, yes, we'll get to that, but mostly, does it challenge the male gaze? Does it work against the objectification of women and allow realization and representation, and also like, do the women talk to each other about something that's not a man? This is a porn patch special test, I guess. But a lot of Candida's porn was actually very softly lit with romantic music in the background, and that was sort of understood as what feminist porn was that it was soft and sensitive to the women's needs, much like the big pen for women or whatever. Like, you're just like, I don't need a fucking pink pen. Like, we don't need pink porn. We're totally fine with like bound gangbangs and facials, as long as we're perfectly fine with it, as long as we have agency in that situation. A lot of feminist porn has gotten a lot hardcore, and now there's queer feminist porn, and alt feminist porn, and hardcore feminist porn, and softcore feminist porn, and there's all these different kinds of porns, and they all exist in totally different realms and totally different fields, and there's women making feminist porn in the mainstream spectrum. There's feminists who work as sex workers in corporate porn that doesn't necessarily look feminist. I think of people like Stoya, who's like one of the most awesome feminist porn stars of our time, and she does double penetration gangbangs for Digital Playground 3 times a year, and that's her job. Her porn doesn't look like feminist porn, but she's a feminist. And she talks about it, and she's really interesting. She writes articles for Vice magazine all the time, so they're definitely worth getting into. If you kind of want the conundrum of a feminist sex worker in mainstream porn, it'll open your mind a little bit. I don't have more thing to say, but that's it.
Awesome. So the next question is, how do privilege and oppression factor into your experience making porn?
Yeah, so like Stoya, I don't get to work for Digital Playground. She makes a shit ton of money for those 3 scenes she does a year. And she has, as you know, she gets a lot of fucking benefits. And the reason why she's, you know, offered this incredible amount of money, she's a millionaire, and she does very little scenes, and she only works basically with her boyfriend, James Dean. Like, it's ridiculous what she's getting paid for, really, is because she's cis, she's college educated, she has natural, beautiful breasts. She's very thin, very fit. She has a symmetrical face. She has long hair. She has bangs. She looks like Zooey Deschanel. So yeah, she has got privilege that gives her access to this major money and this major fame. And also she's also got the privilege to be free from judgment for having fake tits or fake nails, because she doesn't do that. There's a lot of privilege in the porn industry. I can't get work fucking anywhere because I'm plus size, and I have tattoos, and I'm queer, and I only really like fucking girls. So there's a lot of job opportunities that are just not there for me because of my size. And that gets more and more complicated for my friends who are more visibly trans or more visibly disabled, or not white, or larger than me. You know, I have privilege over them because at least I can put out lesbian curves. At least I have money to produce my own movies and get myself out there, even if nobody else will hire me, because I've been offered enough opportunities to be able to afford that. So my experience has been a lot of closed doors and a lot of no's, and watching a lot of my thinner queer porn friends like Jisley or Dylan Ryan be able to make huge waves in mainstream porn and be totally awesome feminist porn stars, and get a chance to do mainstream porn opportunities and sort of change it all up from the inside. And I'm just not even allowed to go to those parties. So there's a lot of jealousy there. And I also recognize that there's a lot of jealousy towards me because I'm white and I have money to make the kind of porn that I want to make, and I'm able-bodied enough to make it. So it's a lot of stuff to think about.
Yeah, completely. And that's, for myself, I have all these privileges as well, that I've had all these opportunities to build these sites and to create all of this, but I see that as a great way to empower other people who don't have all these things. So I definitely use that as a springboard for people who might want to get involved. Also, it's really important for us to have it in a community like this where people judge harshly, and for example, people have lost their jobs for being on cherry stems and all that sort of stuff, and we're out there fighting that kind of fight for people who maybe can't or don't want to, maybe want to get into sex work but are afraid, and they can still identify with the project and that sort of thing. So we're doing that. I really I recognize all of my privileges in coming into this as an in-betweeny body type person. I don't identify as plus size or thin. I'm kind of both on both halves. So I'm a half and half. Call myself an in-betweeny. But I use those privileges to give voice to people who need it. So yeah, moving on.
Being plus size definitely does close a lot of doors with different things you want to do. And I mean, even before I started doing like the softcore porn, just being like a plus fashion model, it was kind of funny because some place you could go, you'd be like, yeah, you have a perfect measurements, this and that, and you look at like another fashion place, and their definition of a plus size model would be like a size 6, which to me I think that's absolutely ridiculous, but that's how it is, unfortunately. And that's another reason why I'm so passionate and I absolutely love Cherry Stems, because it's a great little community there. And yeah.
Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah. So a recent podcast, Feminism for the Rest of Us, stated that porn is violence against women. What do you think about this?
Do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, sure. I think that you know, there are absolutely instances where there has been violence on porn sets, and that's really unfortunate. A little while ago, I stumbled across a video where there was scenes from different sets and showing the abuses that some of these women went through. And that's just really unfortunate that that has to happen. But at the same time, you know, more feminist companies are coming out, and I think that's fantastic, because I think there should be more feminists running this industry to avoid a lot of those things from happening.
And to take another, because what I think that they, okay, first of all, feminism for the rest of us, like you're saying, like who's the rest of us? Said that it's violence against women. So a lot of that word violence is likely coming from the idea that women can't enjoy sex and women can't represent themselves in sex work, and that they're always there because of the patriarchy. Like, it's always removed from their hands, like, no, you don't actually want to be doing this. Like, someone is telling you, and you've been coerced into thinking it, like, over the years through your upbringing, whatever. And so it's violence against women because of the things that we have learned, which really takes away agency from any woman who enjoys sex. Like, that is not violence against women. That is empowerment. That is work. That is whatever you want to call it. No, not violence against women. That's my really quick thought about this. I know you'll expand on it. So, yeah.
Saying that porn is violence against women is kind of saying, like, newspapers are violence against women. Porn is a form of media. Music is a form of media. Books are a form of media. Television is a form of media. Film is a form of media. Porn is a form of media. All of these forms of media have committed violence against women. Let's fucking face it. You know, I have seen more television shows on ABC that have felt violent towards me as a woman than I ever have watching any porn tube site ever. So I think it's really important to place strength on porn as something that actually, because it's not controlled by Fox News or Viacom or Comcast, we actually have the power to really fight back against violence against women within pornography in a way that other media can't do. You know, you hear these horror stories about, like, look what happened to Britney Spears' life. Look what happened to Lindsay Lohan's life. That is violence against women, and you don't hear those stories happening in pornography the same way that you do with, like, child stars from Disney and all of the atrocities that happen in those forms of media. We can't fight back against the way that newspapers, you know, discriminate against us. We can't fight back about how much space television news gives to anti-abortion politicians and the kind of crap that's happening in the U.S. We don't have power to create something with as wide as reach or scope of experience within any of those other mediums, but in porn we do. We have a lot of power and we have a lot of say, because in porn, women are the majority. Like, women are the majority of the people directing. Women are all over set. Women are the people marketing it. Women are the people writing about it. And that's, we have a lot of strength there. And I think that we have absolutely more power within the porn medium to face misogyny within that field of media than in any other option that we actually have. So, you know, I think that feminists who are anti-porn should probably, like, walk over to Fox News, sit down, and deal with them, and, like, let us fight the fight that we're fighting. Also, a lot of trends get started because of porn, and if we continue to focus on porn that's positive and pro-female and pro-women and non-violent towards women, that will begin to affect the rest of media and affect the way the rest of us treat each other. I really strongly believe in that.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I recently read something about violence, women in media, that the MPA ratings for abuse against women is only a PG-13 rating, but an orgasm of a woman gets an NC-17 rating. Mm-hmm. That is, like, that's everything in a nutshell, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
All right, so the next question.
I've seen more rape in Disney movies than I have in porn. Like,
yeah.
How can stigma be changed in the industry? Sorry, that's poorly worded. How do you think we can change attitudes towards stigma about people in the industry?
I think that events like this are a really good start. I think the chance for you to sit down and have to listen to everything you have to say for 2 hours before you even get to tell us who you are or what your specific questions are. This is a power exchange that we're having right now, where you just get to sit down and listen to sex workers talk, or to people within the porn industry talk, and that's powerful, and it changes the stigma. And hopefully there's something that you thought about when you walked in here that you don't think anymore. And that's the hope, and hopefully these conversations that are set up and moderated, work as the kind of education that you didn't get in high school or college about sex work.
Yes. So my simple answer is yes, it does need to change, because stigma towards all kinds of people who make their own personal choices needs to change, because those are people's personal choices. And especially when they're based in a positive place, like, why you gotta judge, basically. So how could it be done? Same kind of thing. Having the conversations, humanizing sex workers, showing that we are smart people who kind of we can do this. We can host a panel. Apparently, I can't get that sentence out, though.
Maybe we can't host a panel.
Maybe we can't. But yeah, just little things like this. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I have to add to that. I guess a lot of people just have an opinion of what porn is and what people who do porn are like, and they think it's dirty, they think it's this, and I think having these kind of conversations really opens the door to helping people understand better what, people who work in the sex industry, they're mothers, they're fathers, they're, queer, they're straight, they're whatever, so.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so the last question, is there anything else you want to say?
That's pretty open.
Let's just,
do you want to
questions from the audience?
Yeah, questions from the audience.
We've talked a lot.
Yeah. What would you like us to say?
Yeah, what would you like us to say? What do you want to say?
Fielding questions.
Yes.
In your little interview for Queer Porn TV, you talk about your dream TV show being a queer porno Project Runway style show.
Very specific question.
I'm just going to move this over here.
Future porn starlets, and I'm wondering if you've thought more about that.
Okay.
Elaborate on it for those
Yes.
who haven't heard about it.
That's hilarious. Thank you. Thanks for that. On queerporn.tv, which is a pay site, again, I have little stickers if nobody's ever been to it. I have little cards so you can remember it. But it's queerporn.tv. It's a porn site, mostly videos, hardcore, everything is queer identified. It's very specific in that. It's like modern sluts, trans porn, queer people. And we have agency representation. Every single model has a bio page where they have a written portion and a video and a picture. And I guess in my written portion, one of the questions is, hey, pitch your reality TV show. And my answer to my own question that I came up with was that I thought it'd be really funny to do a Project Runway or America's Next Top Model style game show where people all fight to be the next top queer pornographer. And then so the joke is well, okay, what are the challenges? And one of them is trying to field a porn site where everybody did ecstasy the night before. And quick, now you have to make a porn scene. They're all on ecstasy. What do you do?
Yeah.
If I had the time and money to actually put on some kind of televised contest for queer porn filmmakers, I think that would be really fucking powerful and really awesome. I don't know what what channel it would go on. The internet channel, yeah. Queer Porn Tube, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, you just gave me a pretty good idea. Would you watch that, or would you want to be on it? Like, okay, so what would you do if all of your porn stars were on ecstasy?
Probably check in with them, maybe reschedule.
My answer is always pillows.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of pillows. That would be so fucking awesome to do that. I kind of feel like my life is a little bit like that right now, because one of the things that I am really focusing on this year is enabling directors to start their own projects. So I am on a lot of sets where the director's like, I don't know what to do, they're half drunk, or like, facing the different questions of filming people have sex. So it's happening. Maybe I should be shooting it. Come to Oakland. Cool. That's hilarious. Good question.
Yeah. Another question.
I think this one had a hand up,
Yeah,
and then
Calvin.
that person.
Let's see. Is there a particular kind of scene or kind of project that you wanted to do for a while, but for some reason it's just not coming together?
Yeah. Oh, currently or like in the past?
Currently, something you haven't yet managed to make happen.
Gay boys.
Right.
We saw 2 scenes last night, and there's the only 2 we've shot that are cis gay boys. I've just cannot penetrate that field at all.
Is there? Can you identify particular reasons that that's?
A lot of the guys, I don't. So when it comes to like diversity, I don't think of my work as a pie with slices. I don't say I need one of this and one of this and one of this and one of this. I'm an artist. I'm inspired by what inspires me. I love what I love. I often go through phases of being interested in different kinds of people. But I also kind of work with whoever comes to my studio. Like, whatever's thrown at me, I work with. But there have been some cases in my life where I've like had to reach out, do some outreach, and be like, hey, what do you think? Do you want to do queer porn? And I've had to do that with cis queer men. And every single time that I've done that, there's always something holding them back, and when I look at mainstream gay porn, everybody's like got muscles, or they look like 12-year-old boys, which is fine, and all of that is fine, and they're all sexy, and it's all sort of really unattainable beauty standards, like kind of worse than girls in porn. Like there's this totally unattainable way that the bodies look that just is really hard, I think, for a lot of the guys that I've asked to grapple with, and they have normal sized dicks. I don't know, they have more average sized dicks, and they don't go to the gym every day, or maybe they have a little belly, and the world is really fucking harsh to gay men. Like, not only are they gay, but okay, if you're gonna be gay, you have to be perfect, right? Or else we're not gonna accept you. You have to be rich, you have to be in San Francisco, you have to be not too feminine, but you can't be too masculine, you have to be a gym guy, I think those things have really affected the sexual exhibitionist self-confidence of a lot of queer men that I've met. But I have had some luck. I worked, and then, so when I really want to add more to my diversity pie, I find somebody who's really down to fuck, and I just shoot them as much as fucking possible. When I met Drew DeVoe, who's a trans woman, I was like, I'm basically just going to put you in everything until other people show up to this party. And literally within a year, I had 40 trans women applying for my site that I was like, yeah, I want to work with you. You inspire me. I'm interested. Let's go. Because I do have to be inspired and interested. I can't just work with every single person who shows up, or else I will get burnt out. You know, like but yeah, I mean, queer men. I don't know. I don't know what the holdup is. Maybe it's because I'm not a queer man. You know.
I experienced pretty much exactly the same problem with Cherry Stems, with getting people to come forward. I mean, part of that problem is built in that there's a large cis female portion, and so people and I'm working on this, but a lot of the site presents as very femmy, which is hard to identify with when you're coming from a male upbringing. Mm-hmm. And so, trying to correct that myself and really work towards involving men more. Pardon me. But, is there more you have to say on that? Because there is an awesome project that I do want to work on, and some people know about it, but it's secret. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be so cool. Technology, let me tell you.
So basically, I think what we're trying to say is that feminist porn, and I think that feminism in general is really lacking the inclusion of men, like lacking men wanting to be interested in and participating and feeling included within feminist spaces. And of course, those are the people who need it the most. Once we're established feminists, we're great, we're safe, we're in our safe space, we have our community, we're awesome, we're strong. Mm-hmm. But misogyny affects everybody. You know, misogyny has a really profoundly negative effect on men as well as women. So we need to not be fighting men, we need to be fighting misogyny. And that's a really important part of feminist porn that I think does need to be addressed and worked on, is like, we need to have gay porn as part of our queer porn movement. We need to have, you know, I mean, I think feminist porn is doing a really great job at including straight men in their straight productions. It's fucking beautiful stuff, actually. But yeah, feminism needs guys, you know, like, I think that somewhere along the line it got this negative stereotype that it's anti-man. I'm like, well, then who the fuck are we talking to? Like, so, yeah, anyways. Okay, guys.
Oh, guys.
There's
one at the back, yeah.
Should I stand?
If you
like.
want to.
Everyone can stare at me.
If, or you can just whisper very quietly.
We spoke about this a little earlier, but I would love to hear some examples from all of you about some systematic limitations, like limitations already inherent in whatever rules or guidelines you're trying to follow that limited your feminist porn. I mean, I very firmly believe porn is for everyone, but for the shop I manage, Smitten 120 on board, it's actually very difficult to get, with the Canadian porn guidelines, it's very difficult to get porn that I would feel really good about selling in our store, you know, and a lot of people don't know that. If you could explain that, that would be beautiful. I'd love to hear that. And more
about the
examples.
Canadian, I mean, I do.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
you know
wanna
about
just
it, no.
the whole time.
No worries. I wholesale dicks, not.
So I wholesale and distribute 7 out of the 22 of my own films. I have, sorry, is everybody okay back there? Okay.
Laughed at her own sneeze.
Oh.
Makes sense.
So I've had to deal with like where my porn goes across state lines and country lines and borders, and what are the rules in different places, and what I'm even allowed to print in the U.S. is pretty limited by anti-feminist porn laws, such as like I shouldn't really be putting fisting on a DVD. I do because fuck it all to hell, that's what I shoot. But there's a lot of places that won't take my DVD work because it has fisting on it, which is just hand sex, like not really like violent or anything, but for some reason it's totally obscene. And it makes me want to cry because it sucks, and that's the way that I like to have sex, and that's what makes me come, and why is that obscene? In the U.S., it's not illegal because we have freedom of speech, you know, First Amendment and whatnot. But what we do have is an obscenity clause that if a community deems something to be obscene only, with no artistic merit or educational or scientific merits whatsoever, you can go to jail and you can be fined and you can spend millions of dollars in lawyer fees and not win. It's totally happened for things like squirting and fisting. They tend to be only things that are like attached to female pleasure. Like, facial cum shots are fine, you know, like multiple dudes are fine, whatever. But the second that somebody cries during an orgasm while they're getting fisted and they're on their period, like, oh, welcome to jail.
Yeah.
Like, and like, God, that's how I have sex, you know. It's hard. In Canada, y'all have a obscenity board, basically, board of obscenity, that you actually have to get all of your porn certified with a sticker on it before it's allowed to be sold in any adult shops. The application to get your film screened by the Canadian Board of Obscenity is $2,000 to $10,000, which is more than I spent on making the film. So yeah, y'all don't have access to DVDs in adult stores the way that other people do because of this. That being said, the internet is amazing. I sell all my porn at CourtneyTrouble.com/store, so I'll totally ship it to you. Fuck the laws, be damned. I hope none of you are obscenity clerks. But yeah, that's the main limitation for me as a filmmaker, and also so then as a performer, I'm not really allowed to have that particular kind of sex that I love to have on a lot of the other sets that I work for. Even for the crash pad, if I were on my period at the crash pad, I would have to hide it. And that's like a queer feminist porn website, not even DVD based. So there's places as a performer where I can't work because of limitations that are pretty fucked up. I don't even know if that's a problem of feminism, even though it does seem to be largely female pleasure stuff. But, yeah.
And I can speak to the production side of that obscenity law thing, is that basically, like, there's so much legalese written about how you can and can't make porn in Canada, and most of it is centered around age, just making sure people are over 18 and not coerced and that sort of thing. But otherwise, all the obscenity laws are very, very big. So, like, I wouldn't know until someone complained about it, brought it to a board, like all of these kinds of things. So what I do to combat that in the productions that we've been making is basically to consent the shit out of it. Like, have a pre-scene consultation, like meet with everybody, talk about boundaries, write down safe words, document that, then, you know, do a pre-shoot interview on film, then do the shoot, then do a post-shoot interview on film, get it all documented that these are people representing themselves in the way that they have sex, and that it's positive and not obscene, like sex isn't obscene. Okay, so that's the kind of regulatory stuff that I've come up against, and trying to, like, I obviously want to try to avoid going to jail and avoid getting sued and these kind of things, but you also want to represent everyone and their true expressions, so you don't want to limit people. So as such, just trying to make it incredibly obvious that this is how people do it, even if the consent board, even if this isn't how you folks do it, I'm talking to them, they're over there, and if it's not how you have sex, it is how some people have sex. And so that's the best kind of example of me being up against systematic things, I guess, in my work. Cherry Sims is pretty soft core, so I haven't really had to worry about that so much. It's just a lot of signing papers. So, yeah.
Does anybody have a performer-based question that we could all pitch in on?
Yeah.
Love?
Yeah.
If no.
Or another question. Or we can take another question and then keep thinking about your performer question. Yeah. Any hands?
No? All right. Going once? Going twice? Cool. Well, can we just, I guess you all know where to find us, right? CherrySims.com.
Yeah.
Both of these two.
Do you want to, like, say your Twitters and all that? I don't know.
My Twitter is at Courtney Trouble. CourtneyTrouble.com should get you to most places where you want to go, but queerporn.tv and indiepornrevolution.com are my 2 pay sites. So you can be a member and get all you can eat porn from both of those places.
Yeah.
CourtneyTrouble.com/store is my clip store and DVD store, so you can buy full-length DVDs to ship to you. You can also buy them as full downloads, so you can just have them right away and play them on your phone or your computer. Or you can buy individual scenes, so if you just want to try something out, there's a lot of stuff for like $5. I try to make my porn as accessible as possible, so I also have a free queer porn tube site. So if you go to queerporntube.com, there's a lot of awesome free porn there. It's not the full thing, it's not the real deal. It's trailers and submitted stuff. It's really awesome. A lot of people from the queer community have put stuff up there that I don't have access to, so it's kind of a really cool community-based project that is really special to me. We live in Canada, so in early April, they have the Feminist Porn Awards and the Feminist Porn Conference in Toronto. So maybe you can take a road trip or fly
It's about a day
for that, because it's so much fun, and you'll get to meet a lot of people who perform and a lot of people who make it. And the conference, I think, is going to be really awesome. I'm going to be the keynote speaker, but I've heard there's a lot of how-to seminars being added to the conference this year. So if you're interested in starting up your own business related to feminist porn, it would be very, very wise for you to come to the Feminist Porn Conference in April. What else? My movies just came out: Lesbian Curves, Hard Femme, and Girl Pile, and Trans Girls, Revolution Porn Style Now. And they're at the merch table. I have them for sale for $10 to $30. And I'm about to put out fuck stuff.
I can personally recommend Girl Pile.
Seal of approval.
You can like watch it like 3 minutes. Some people are watching that movie just like literally 3 minutes at a time.
I absolutely understand that.
Yeah. So the next movie that I am releasing, I should be putting out as soon as I get home from this trip. It's called Fuck Styles 2, Dirty Fucks. And it's a queer porn, it's a hardcore queer porn mixtape. So
Awesome.
some of my best of stuff from the past year or whatever. So that'll be coming out. I think it's going to be getting mainstream distribution. So you might be able to like watch it on your cable at some point soon.
Woo.
Yeah. There's some big stuff happening in queer porn right now.
Big stuff.
Yeah.
And for myself and Arachneo, you can find us both on cherrystems.com without clothes on, which is exciting. If you want to,
You could be too.
You could be too, and that's an important thing that I was going to touch on. If you are interested in going to the Feminist Porn Awards, Cherry Stems goes every year. We offer some supplementing of travel for people who need supplementing on travel, and we definitely pay for some of the hotel costs and things like that. So we do help bring people there and expose Winnipeggers to the scene, which is a big deal because we all need to network and make connections the world around. So if you're interested in even coming along, if you're not involved with Cherry Stems, I can't really necessarily supplement your trip, but if you come with us, maybe you can stay in a hotel with us and have some parties. But if you're interested in that at all, come and talk to me anytime. We're all about breaking the Winnipeg barrier, I like to call it, because we're stuck in the middle of nowhere. So, okay, but I love us. So that's super important. What did you say that got me on that tangent? I don't remember, but you can Twitter me. I'm Ms. Kate Sinclair, so it's MS Kate Sinclair. And that's also my blog address.com, so any of those will direct you to me. And stay tuned for our new site. If anyone is interested in performing or being part of Cherry Stems, talk to me.
It's awesome.
It's super fun. I mean, it's super fun and awesome, but also serious business, so we'll talk.
Very important.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah, like everything on the internet is there forever. Which is great, but that's...
Except for GeoCities. I think that finally...
Yeah. I don't know.
If you had a porn site in GeoCities,
Well, just the other day...
probably on LiveJournal.
We were talking about websites that still exist, and apparently the Space Jam website is a gold mine of the 90s. It's still up. It's amazing. It's totally a GeoCity site. But anyway, enough about Space Jam.
Mental note.
Yeah. Tomorrow night we've got Courtney Treble is DJing at Club
200.
Club 200 at the Pinups and Sailors party. I forgot the venue.
Tons of fun.
And this is the last chance right now to buy DVDs for me in person.
Yes.
So I'll be over at the Cherry Stems table.
Yeah. And anything? No. Oh. Cherry
Check
Stems.
out her Cherry Stems profile.
Come see Arachnia and her wonderful body.
We make a song about it.
Yeah.